Okay, cool.
Do you got a video camera?
Yeah, here it is, yeah.
Okay, let's see. Let me see what this says. Screenshot says Skype current call.
Okay, cool.
Do you got a video camera?
It's on? Yeah, here it is, yeah.
Okay, let's see. Let me see what this says. Okay, so you got to turn that Skype current call.
Okay, cool.
Are you right? Are you ready? You gotta.
I'm ready, so I could hear. Yeah,
You gotta mute. You gotta mute the dead TV thing, or if it might be on my end. Let me see.
I think it's your end, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm an idiot.
Are you ready?
You gotta.
I'm ready.
Woo! Done. Sorry about
Wow. It sounded like an intro of a more esoteric one of your tracks.
that. Yeah, exactly. So you know what?
Not in a bad way. It was quite enjoyable.
A while back, a few years ago, when I was going out of my head before I started taking some medication to nip that in the bud, I was doing some experiments while I was doing my TV show, and with the echoes going through the internet, I would be tapping on things, and I could get going drum beats and everything while I was on TV, and it was really quite interesting. But with the little feedbacks and stuff. But anyways, first of all, you're really a good sport for doing this. Let me explain something to the people that are tuned in and the people in the future. This is John Robb sitting here with me.
Okay, cool.
And he does a lot of things. I really respect him. And one thing is he set out doing this sort of do-it-yourself journalism, are segued into it, setting up a platform for other people. And I'm so into this, which is creating the culture that you really need for yourself. It's like creating an ecosystem. So I wanna thank you for that, because you make it possible for other people to contribute to your thing, and it's just grown. And because the people are submitting articles about things, I find the quality of the journalism to be better than, okay, here's this band, we want you to write about it because the PR person said to, or something. You know what I mean? I get a lot of good reads off your site, off of Twitter and all that.
No, I mean, so the idea of it is it's actually a fan's site. People will write about the stuff they like. It's funny when you get young kids saying, what should we write about? And I go, why are you asking me? You should be telling me. So I think a lot of people think they feel like they should be told what to listen to, what to write about. And that's not the point, is it?
No, it isn't. Because, gosh, I was talking to another journalist a little bit on Twitter today, Dom, from Liverpool, and I was talking about what I found inspirational about post-punk and punk shows, the early shows, just being out there and watching all the groups, and how the business killed all that with the agents, just when people stopped being able to pick the supports and all that stuff, when it just became tossing some other band on there. And then the whole culture in the UK I was really on a rant this morning about how disappointing it is when I bring great bands to open up and everybody's drinking cans of lager out back or something because they can't afford to drink in there, and they just assume automatically that the opener is going to be somebody they hate, because the whole culture is turned on its ear, where it used to be you were just excited to go out and you wanted to see it all.
Yeah, and I always think the early punk days, the last days of the 60s package tours, when in the 60s you could see The Who, The Kinks, and about a small face or whatever, all the same bill. What about that amazing tour with Jimi Hendrix and Sid Barrett Floyd on the same bill?
Yeah.
With when Lemmy was Jimi Hendrix's roadie, you're thinking that's a backstage you want to be at, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that idea, even the agents maybe were picking those bills, but at least they're picking those bills understanding what the audience wanted. And those, you look at those first Clash tours, where it's Clash, Buzzcocks, Subway, Sex, and the Slits on one bill.
The Clash were totally egalitarian, though. See, they wanted to make stuff happen for their own reason. They screwed themselves into one of the worst record deals in modern history until they renegotiated. Just saying we're not in it for the money. And Seymour Stein was like, "Oh, cool, you're not in it for the money."
That's always a problem. I think your managers. This is the flip side of the coin, isn't it? If you have a manager, you're big enough to have a manager. The best manager is a manager who's just purely in it for the money. You know, the most sinking feeling you get in a band is when you go to a record label
Yeah.
and they say, "Hey, we're big fans of music," and you
Yeah.
go, "Can't you just be fans of money? That's what you're there for."
Yeah. Yeah,
You don't want to be in conversation with your record label.
I was trying to tell some people before about all this stuff, you know. Oh yeah, you know what it was is I was sitting here with my engineer Andrea from Liverpool, and we were looking at the Channel 4 clip from me when Gupta had me on the news there, and I was explaining what happens to all the bands. It's like when the manager and the label figures out who's cooking with gas, the writer, 20% of 50, you know, of the 100% is a bigger cut than 20% of 6 ways. You know what I'm saying? So they cut a band apart just to start with. They're like, no, you're the guy that writes the song, or you two guys, and the rest of you guys are just monkeys. And the labels want that, and the manager, I explained to people in bands, I go, man, the manager, the first thing he's going to do is sign you to the biggest, worst deal because he gets 20% of it immediately. It doesn't matter what your goals are. He's going to say, this is the deal right here, man. This is the one that gives me 100,000 K.
That's a bad manager, isn't it? So sometimes it's better to get less money and a good deal, you know.
All my peers crapped out. You know, all my peers, they took these deals, and some of them got their flats if they were lucky, and everybody got in the magazines and everything. But what happened is Spotify owns all the music. Now here it is, I can employ people, I own all the music, and those guys don't even make the money from Spotify because they sold the publishing. Those checks aren't coming because the advance was spent in '92 or whatever it was. And it's just like, here they got this landmark record, and the only person I know that climbed out of the hole was Kevin Shields, and that was because people wanted to, one, it was sort of the audience was waiting for his return, and the other was sort of, God, I'm just laughing at my sideburns. They're really going nuts right now. You're going to die when you see this. I'm just trying to see. Oh, that's good. They're crazy. It's like a cartoon. I call myself, my hip-hop name is Old Money.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm like hanging out with the Queen at a polo match. It's because I am the actual dude on Old Money. Just look on the bill.
Isn't that like Flexi Bargelt's name? Isn't his name mean something like that, German?
I don't know.
It means something like old money or cash or something.
That's so funny. Okay, so anyways, everybody, the interesting thing is I'm actually not here to interview John, but I really enjoy when people are just having a conversation. Not that I want to waste all this time. See, I really like that stuff, but I gotta let you do what you do really well, because I've seen you do it before. I've watched tapes of you talking about what it is you like and believe in, and I read the results of. It's always over different things. Sometimes it's over stuff that's happening where you chime in. I really like your articles when you like throw your 2 cents in about something. You know, when you got your opinions on that. And I also like the ones that you write about when you. I enjoy your writing actually because you know what you're talking about. And it would be so easy just to go, this guy's got a mohawk and he's counterculture or something, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
You know what's going on, and you're doing your own thing, so that's cool, which I think is really good too.
Yeah, I guess like a lot of people just spun out for punk and carried on, really. So, but what I'm interested in what you do is it's kind of parallel. I guess I'm coming out of a more punk rock thing.
Yeah.
But you come out more of sort of a latter-day psychedelia sense.
Both.
I love the word psychedelia. I must write it down about 50 times a day because I can never quite spell it right. So I always remember when I write it down. But the idea is quite eternal music form, isn't it? People think it's psychedelia, but it's from 1967. Yeah. But it's always there, isn't it?
Well, I'm from 1967. See, I was born in '67. So
in a sense, you were born in the ether. Yeah.
I really was. So.
You're San Francisco as well, aren't you? So
I'm from Newport Beach, Southern California, but the group
it's still good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, the group started. Our group started in San Francisco, but you know, so there was the music that I grew up listening to, which is my mom's record collection and hanging out with the artists and all that thing happening, and then you know my sister she had the Enemy and Sounds and Melody Maker subscriptions, so she went basically from Queen to everything, You know what I mean? Basically what happened. And then on the AM radios and stuff, it was like one day all of a sudden it was Talking Heads and everybody was on the AM radio. It was the whole world exploded in the Clash, every single thing. So I went from my mom's record collection and post-psychedelic. I never got into the Eagles and stuff as it more from you know, the like Crosby, Stills and Nash stuff. That's where I lost my mom. You know, I was just like, I don't know what you're doing. You know, like you like ELO and shit or something. I'm not following you. You know, like it got really weird in the house. And then, you know, the whole thing happened with my sister. So I went from psychedelic into like post-punk and everything. And then, but for Access, you know, it was all one big bag. So I got to see like 999 and Magazine, and everybody played The Damned the first time they played. Everybody who made it to California, except the Pistols. That was too early, but I saw the first PIL. I saw all that stuff, and I really loved it. But the thing is that stuff, you know, we morphed it into everything. But then eventually it circled back around to another kind of everything, to where, you know what I mean? It became like, we don't know what it is, because I just sent you some stuff and we just don't know what it is. Like some days I am the Walrus, and other days I'm really into PIL. So it's like we don't know.
Is it that far apart though? I remember at the time, being older, living this in real time. Post-punk felt like a whole new type of music, but now, honestly, back to it, it almost feels like another coming of psychedelia, or I guess, I mean, just both musics are just kind of warped musics, aren't they? They warp your mind.
See, punk music is folk music, and I tried to correct people what that whole movement was. Folk music was for the people, and everybody decided.
I always say that.
And the
electric folk music,
yeah, and the most important thing was the minute you saw those idiots up on stage, you wanted to make music too, and it didn't matter. There was no rules. So the weird thing about that style, about Johnny Rotten and everybody else, that blew my mind, was as you emulated them, you became yourself instead of them. See, when you copied Sid, in a way, unless you were some total moron, you weren't like Sid Vicious at all. You were yourself immediately. So
they kicked open the door and never ran through, did their own thing. That's the way I always like to look at it.
But the Clash and everything too. See, by all these guys' influences and everybody's different things, you know, a lot of people made it okay to do all kinds of stuff, and that was really important for me to witness that happening.
But I really like the way that you've taken that energy and you've gone back through all the key points of rock music.
Yeah.
So obviously there's there's a Stones thing in there and a Beatles thing in there. But you've taken that and you made it your own, but you've also fast-forwarded to the future as well. So when I listen to the stuff you just sent me now, it's a psychedelic record, but it sounds like it can only be made this year. It doesn't sound like a 60s psychedelic record. Yeah. And maybe that's what we ultimately learned from punk, in a sense.
Well, I sent you two. It's so funny when I put up a finger gesture, but it was the up your bum too. I sent you two. And the first one, what I wanted to say, I might have said it on the We Transfer. The first one is the first album's sort of like how I imagine people imagine us. And then the second album's how I imagine us, but they're all me. And then
that's a pretty cool concept, yeah.
But then I have girls singing and stuff, you know, and it's like, how is that you? And I go, well, you just don't understand. It's like, it doesn't have to be me. It's like, some weird situation, you know what I mean? It's like I'm trying to remove myself from the situation so much because I just want people to be happy. Because it could be anything that just sets me off, you know, on a daily basis. It's just so disheartening, you know. It could be anything. I could listen to the BBC and they're talking about some war. What was it in '72 where they raped 1 million women on the founding of Bangladesh? And that would just sour me for like 4 hours until I just the realization of something, you know? Just the perplexity, because then I heard that they made all those women heroes nationally because it was part of the struggle. And just the perplexing concept of that is like, this is so nuts, you know, that the culture would be against those women, but then they make them heroes, but then what is a hero? And it was just like, the whole thing was just like, this reality that I live in, you know? I just want to like hang out with my kid and plants and see people happy, but it ain't going to happen in my life, you know?
No, but isn't that the beauty of art or an artist that you have? You probably are a bit more sensitive to things, and you don't. You hear something and it sends you off for a little trip, and you can actually you can kind of make all those feelings into a piece of music. I mean, that's some task, isn't it?
Well, no, that's not the magic. See, the magic is it's the magic machine. You take whatever it is that you think it is, and you put it in the machine, and then other people look at it, and it's whatever they want it to be.
Well, yeah, because people always rethink things.
So you do it for personal reasons. Like, I'm never going to sit there and contemplate what the radio expects of me, because it's never going to work in a million years. It never did. I used to sit there in 1990 and whatever and said, man, every single song, I said, boy, people are just going to shit their pants when they hear this. They're going to freak it out. They're going to, Ridey's going to love me. Mark Gardner, everybody's going to love me. And nothing would happen, and it would just be, it would be this nonstop, never, except I am mates with all these people. But it was, it was like this weird thing that, and that went on for like 20 years or so. No, I don't know. It went on for ages, It went on until like 2000 or something where I just stopped even caring about it, what anybody thought about anything ever. And it turned really into me not even sharing any ideas with people. And my friends, only just people that are very close, when they'd be at the studio or something, at one of my studios, they'd be like, why don't you show people this fucking tune? This is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, really? Because I just make this shit every single day. And then, I don't know. So then I got all my ducks in a row and things became more interesting, I think. And they are getting interesting. And I have some really odd personal things that I'm into. And one of them is, I was never into being in a rock group to score chicks because I had natural relations with girls when I was 13, dating 13-year-olds and hanging out at my house with zero parental control and all that stuff, respectfully. You know what I mean? So it was never So it was never an issue like, okay, let's break the ice and get popular, because
you already were the cool kid when you were 13.
Well, we were the outlaws. We were already we were popularly unpopular. It was really weird, but we threw the best parties. So we would get 900 people at our house with a punk band and kegs, with no parents.
So would the band be an extension of that, lifestyle instead of the door into it? You already were living the rock and roll lifestyle.
We started bands when we were like 12 years old, though. Every time somebody's parent was away for the weekend, we'd start a band and have a party with beer and everything for everybody in the neighborhood, all the kids at the school, and until the police would come and arrest everybody on the street and make the paper the next day that they arrested like 190 teenagers and sent them all to jail, locked them up in the parking lot or whatever. But, and it was that kind of stuff. But so the opposite was true. For us to be able to play in clubs, then before I'd left home, we had to act like adults because the laws in California were the drinking age. So you had to like blag your way into saying, no, this isn't going to be an issue that I'm a teenager playing at this show. And at the Cuckoo's Nest, you can look it up online, this punk club, legendary, the Damned, everybody there. I mean, this is the place in California where this stuff kicked off. Howard Devoto, every single thing was going on, was right down the street, like 1 block from my mom's house. And
perfect.
It was mental. Okay, this is where, the Tiswell, Black Flag, everything happened right there. Because the suburbs were traditionally where music happens. Garage music wasn't the Ramones. Garage music happens with the garage when you got no neighbors and you're making noise. It doesn't happen when you're underneath a building, an apartment building in Brooklyn. See what I'm saying? It's a middle class thing. It's a middle class thing. You know?
You have to have the garage
and the gear. You got an amp. Your mom bought you made a drum set. It's that whole thing, right? It's why Bill Wyman was in the Stones, because he had the bass amp and the guitar amp and everything. Did I lose you there? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, yes.
So anyway,
Quite 59.
okay,
No,
so
I actually not Bill Wyman totally yet. I'm just interested in the idea of Bill Wyman,
that's what they said.
or his Continental. Yeah.
That's what Brian Jones said. He picked him because he had the extra amps.
I know it's amazing, isn't it? It just shows a little bit of investment goes a long way. If you Bill Wyman. Yeah.
He is great, and it's so funny because Brian's the only one with good gear, and he only got it because he nicked from the till every day because he was so handsome and he was popular. Evidently, he was like the best swimmer in all of the Shire as a teenager. Yeah. So everybody knew him because he was like this charmer, and this little blonde-haired charmer, like it was really sharp. So he could get a job at anybody's shop for anybody, as this guy, and he just robbed him blind, working at the tills. But anyways, enough about Brian. I love that guy somewhat.
It's just interesting though, especially the name of the band, and also Brian Jones is like almost become the great forgotten rock star, hasn't he?
In a way, and it's so amazing because, when I used to sit with Greg Shaw, him and I were business partners. That's a guy from Bomp who,
Yeah.
Okay, so Greg had collected all this stuff from the 60s. People don't know that all those pebbles were all Greg's 60s records. So he just made a fake name up and a fake mailbox address and put all those 7 inches onto vinyl and just sold it and never paid anybody. So he had sold like hundreds of thousands of copies of each one of these records after Nuggets. So, 115 volumes. So anyways, Greg and I were business partners, and Greg had collected so much of these magazines and all this, about everybody. And, people remember Mick, right? They think Mick's the guy. But every single magazine, everything was always about Brian. Jazz magazine, pop magazine, internationally. I mean, he was everywhere because he was the epitome of style and the model girlfriends and just everything. It's like Mick was trying so hard. But people generally thought of Mick and Keith and everybody as being really ugly and gangly. Which I don't really see him that way, but I guess I don't fancy men in the same way. But they were.
No, but there's never one bad picture of Brian, is there? Every picture's perfect, isn't it?
Well, not when he's getting old. He was rough.
Yeah, but he still had the hair.
Yeah, exactly.
I think another 5 years it would have been rough, but he got out just in time, didn't he?
Everything I understand that. Check this out, man. They held his head underwater.
Yeah, the builder killed him, didn't he?
And you know what? You want to hear another truth? His house was filled with Persian rugs and knickknacks from around the world.
They all got stolen.
They called that ambulance, but there was nothing in the house. So think about that. They didn't try that hard. There wasn't a fucking thing. He collected toy trains. He collected everything because he was mental about that since he was a child. So he had all the Brit. He had every toy that he ever wanted. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the child in him. All of his weird, freaky gear and lamps from Morocco and who knows, It was all gone.
He was cut adrift. He's on his own, so it's an easy target. So it's you can see it coming all the way towards the end. Well, what I really love about him is even though he didn't write any of the songs, he turned
wrong. And Marianne Faithfull has already told me. Check this out. Even Keith admits, right? Brian had all the tape recorders. Even Keith admits. He's like, I don't even remember how writing Satisfaction. Just went and sleep in the hotel room. Woke up with a tape player next to my head. Brian's tape player, playing Brian's part, not your part.
Oh, is that what happened?
Of course it's what happened. He's like, I don't know, maybe I nicked it off of Otis Redding or something. Well, who's into all that stuff? Mr. Chuck Berry, not you. You know?
I didn't know that. I thought his genius was sprinkling the magic onto their 60s stuff.
It was obviously that too, but I heard he made all kinds of stuff, but the real cinch was, here's the truth, okay? What happened was he cut a deal from the beginning stage with Gromsky that said he got 20% off the top, and then they all got 20% of writing credit as Nanker Fledge. So what happened is Andrew came in, and at one point during a power play, when Andrew wanted the 20%, said, Brian's taking 20% off the top. And that sealed his fate, and that was when he formed the deal with the Jagger-Richards combo for for Andrew to get 20% of that, and they cut Brian right out of it as revenge.
Okay, right. Politics, ban politics.
So then it was like, oh, that you fucker, you stole from us. We're gonna just get you. We're gonna take everything from you.
So I always wonder why, after he'd gone or he's fading at the end, they sound like a completely different band. So now that explains it, that he's actually far more than just the magic dust. He's the prime creative force.
Yeah, everybody said he was the, you know, like when they decided they were going to be the Sgt. Pepper, and everybody's, I mean, they hate that album, right? Satanic. I love it. But
that's my favorite Stones record.
When we were punk, when I was a punker, I used to just take acid and listen to that one.
It's an incredible record. It's actually more psychedelic than Sgt. Pepper's in a weird way.
It is different because Sgt. Pepper.
It's a brilliant record, but it's vaudeville more than psychedelic.
You're so sharp. You know, see, that's what psychedelic means. It could be Tea Party jazz and sitar music at the same time. Yeah. It doesn't mean Eric Clapton wearing his mom's blouse. See with the
point. Oh, no. He's not psychedelic though. He's too workman-like.
But I mean, when he was all strange brew goes inside of you, you know, and he's got the frilly like for when that lasted for when Cream, you know, for like an hour and a half.
I like Cream, but they don't have that psychedelic shimmer to them, which is it's just very well played, slightly twisted blues music.
Oh yeah, well everybody, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of the way blues affected those guys. I'm more into music in general. Do you know what I mean? Like I really am touched by Howlin' Wolf and some of these guys. You know what I mean? Because it's so crazy.
Primal.
But also his story of they're like, Wolf, come in here and sing. He's just mopping the floor and then just lays that down, and you're just like, you know what I mean? And let's go back to the teenager thing. What was he, 56 or something? And when he cut a record, and they're just like, it's so.
I love that TV appearance when the Stones get him on TV, and he looks like somebody's dad on TV. Yeah. And it's the only kind of nice thing they've ever done. They actually gave him a bit of limelight, didn't they? But he looks really confused, but it's a great clip.
Evidently he slept on Brian's shoes as a respect.
Yeah.
He just grabbed Brian's shoes, put them on the floor, and just used them as a pillow because he was so. Because Brian evidently, you know, for UK brought the slide guitar into consciousness.
Little Red Rooster, yeah, what great record. Yeah.
But
they were scholars, weren't they, the Stones? They were studying it, weren't they?
Absolutely, those guys used to steal everybody's bottles, and then, you know, all those guys are. You know, Dylan, the same thing. Dylan basically stole everybody's records at college, and just. It was basically the Harry Smith anthology, where Harry Smith had gone around the South picking up all the 78s. I don't know if you know the story of American music. Is basically the wind-up Victrolas at the company store, for the main thing, whether you're in a factory or wherever you're at. You know, you would get your money for the year, so you could get your blankets and your biscuits and, you know what I mean, your coal or whatever you needed, and your seed for your plow. But they would have these things like, oh, you could buy this Victrola, this wind-up 78, and you could get the opera package with Caruso singing, or you could get the blues Delta package if you're some black sharecropper. You know, it's basically to keep you in debt. But that's how all those blues records got made at first, is they just needed content, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Harry Smith just went around collecting all that stuff and then put them on vinyl in the early 50s, and then Bob Dylan found all that stuff and just looted it.
I mean, and they were scholars, and in a sense, you're kind of like a scholar as well, but the roles are different now, aren't they? When it was Dylan and people like that, they were pioneering scholars. I mean, nobody knew this stuff. The kind of people know it now. So what's the role of a person like you now? You know, are you still a conduit of this kind of culture? Or?
Well, yeah, you see, you know, a big part of being. Let's remove me from the voice of talking about the situation I find myself in. Okay, so let's operate on the suspension of disbelief for a second. Some of us, right, you included, we hold the torch so others might see. It doesn't matter that we are traveling down a similar path at different times. Do you see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
some behind us can see that there's something up ahead, and some up ahead know that they're not alone, and that was worthwhile as well. And it kind of works that way.
Passing the baton, in a
You
sense.
don't even have to come in contact. You know what I mean? It's like just like being out there in the big, big ocean and you see a light someplace and you know, okay. See what I'm saying? We're not
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So land's out there someplace, or there's somebody out there. You know, I'm not just floating adrift. So it doesn't even, your destination might even be different, but it's kind of like, it's real important. I tell people, you know, like you don't even have to know while you're doing it, man. Just leave a beautiful fucking mess for people to figure out somehow. And then they'll make, you know what I mean? And
That's a pretty good summation. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then I talk to my other friends who are like worried about like covering their asses online, and I'm like, for me, I'm way too public a person, you know, like a persona, known and stuff. I'm like, I just make it interesting, just make it so interesting for them. Whether it's streaming TV, you know, I'll just speak my mind about whatever I feel like it, but you know, keep my nose clean and just fire it off and just keep it interesting. Like I could care less what MI6 thinks of me.
Because it's a purely the way you do it is purely like a musician's way of doing it. There's obviously no career plan. You put out 3 albums in 1 year.
Yeah.
You kind of, it's a very helter-skelter approach to creativity and career, and yet the band has become popular.
Well, you have to, John. I put out 6 records basically in the 90s, almost all at once in a year. They came out rapid fire. It was just a little bit over a year, and that was all about me talking to everybody at Warner's. And I said, listen, motherfucker, you know what the sound of this one is? This isn't the sound of me pretending I'm My Bloody Valentine. This is the sound of you losing money, because I'm going to put it in my will that you guys never, ever get this record. And I'm going to go make another one tomorrow. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep making them until you figure out what the fuck I'm saying. Which is basically all I want is a studio and you to leave me alone. So it's like, you know, and that didn't exactly work, except I owned all that stuff because I kept my word about it. But the thing about it was that when I learned to say I'm the producer, then I got like $1 million check, and that started me off on the studios. They were like, "Oh, yeah, of course you're the producer," because it was just the semantics, the linguistics of it. Where the hip hop guys have all learned what I already knew I learned in the 90s. They've learned in the 2000s. See, but they only learn it hand to mouth from the first guy that gives them a chance. So one guy goes to their studio and he signs them to let their life away. Then they get a label imprint. Then they find another guy and make his money. So they're doing it that way. Where I'm like just giving people 70% deals and giving them the best distribution on earth through my mate Phil at Cargo. So I'm putting people into the driver's seat as like I'm kind of like almost like an A&R if I want to be, but at the same time, you know, like I got the studio. I'm just interested in making records happen for people, but it's really hard because people think that like some 50-50 deal that's already split 100 ways above their head, by the time they get their 50-50 is a better deal, and it's like really weird, you know, because I'm like, it's not a better deal. I'm trying to explain to you how this works. You don't even know how to read a contract. But you got to leave people to their own devices. I wish that you and I could do a seminar sometime. Because I would
could be arranged, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because just like at any of these things, like the next time where I don't care where it is, you know, like anytime they have some kind of music thing, you know, I could break it down for anybody. You know, like remember like 10 years ago, or maybe it was 15 years ago, it's been quite a while actually, when Steve Albini floated that letter about when he was pissed at Sonic Youth for getting all those bands to sign up Beck and everybody. He's like, some of your friends are already this fucked, and he broke down he broke down just the economy of when you sign a major deal. Here's where the money goes to the producer and all this shit. Well, I actually know when those percentages goes, and I get way better percentages than he would ever give. You know, I give out 70%. There's no hidden thing behind it, you know, because I thought it was amazing that Michael Jackson could only get 25%. The biggest song. He could only get 25%. And I was just like, what the hell is that all about? You know, you're the biggest guy on the planet, in the universe, and you could only get 25%. It's like, you're doing those guys a favor. You know what I mean? You're the biggest favor in history, basically. And,
yeah, it's amazing how the majors can still exist when everyone kind of knows the way it works now, don't they?
they've got it cinched up, man. I went off on Rai Rai today because she one album I put out, she got #1 in the UK for selling 5,000 copies, and I know for a fact that week that I sold twice as many records as she did in the UK, and I didn't chart. So, but the thing is then she released her next record, and she got platinum in America and went #1, and she sold 500 copies, and that was based on the fact that they leaked a week early at the beginning of that period. They said, "Oops, we accidentally leaked Rihanna's new album." Oh well, and everybody clicked on the button, and that counted as a sale. So,
yes, it's as fixed as it ever was.
but on top of it, Samsung paid her $6 million and then just sent it to everybody with the Android phone at once. So that counted as being the most platinum thing. And today they had the nerve to say, well, she's just beat the Beatles and become a bigger star than the Beatles for being on the charts. And I'm like, for a fucking YouTube click, you think she's a legend. People don't understand that the Beatles, a guy who sold washing machines, fucking took the Beatles to where you know their name. They're a phenomena.
Yeah.
That you know those kids' fucking name. Because nobody planned to have a fucking washing machine salesman make you know John and Paul, George and Ringo's name. Yeah, that is just like, what the hell happened? Do you know what I mean? They literally went from playing whorehouses in a fucking hole in the ground to like, we know their names. It's like crazy. Plus, there's
a lot of great factors there. But I think it's interesting that Rihanna's still compared to the Beatles. That kind of tells you everything you need to know there, because they're still the yardstick after half a century, which is an incredible amount of time.
Well, it is a machine against machine. People don't understand those guys were not for people. That was the industry. But they were talented.
Yeah, well, for once, the best band in the world was the biggest band in the world, and it's not always the case, is it?
That's fair enough, but there was lots of people that were the best. Jimi Hendrix was the best, man. When he came out, and people just don't understand some things. And that's why I love David Crosby, except like when he's on Twitter, because people always ask about this, that, and the other, and he's like, "Thing is, I don't have to pick a favorite," and he's so right. And I always got to remind myself that I don't always have to put something down to pick something up. Meaning in a negative connotation of like where you insult something just because it's not your cup of tea, or you like another group better, or whatever it is. Because I'm really opinionated, and I always try and say that just because I don't like something, and there's lots of things that I don't like, doesn't mean it's not great, or that other people aren't touched by it on a deep level.
Opinions are not facts. People mix that up with music.
Well, I know it's shit, and I can prove it, but it doesn't mean that people don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the thing. Like, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, especially like when I put on my producer's hat and I explain to people, I'm like, well, check this out. I'm really careful about getting into these situations with people, because first of all, I won't work on a song I don't like. Doesn't mean that it's not a good song. It's just I don't want to hear it 100,000 times in my head. I just don't want to work on it.
There's nothing you can do to it. How can you operate with it, because it's so alien? It's a different place, isn't it?
Well, I just tell people I just don't want to. I only work on stuff that I want to work on, and so that's a weird thing. And then I tell people that I don't argue with them. I'm like, look, man, I'll just set up 2 sessions identical, right? Side by side on Pro Tools. And I can't even explain to you what I'm going to do to your music in minutes. So it's easier for me just to tell you to shut up and watch me go for a minute, and you'll get your way too. But after 15 minutes, you're going to go, wow, let's just check out what you're up to for a second, because it'll be weird. Because I might have some observation from being outside for 1 second and go, okay, this is cool. I just got this idea. Because I get really excited like a little kid. So it's kind of and I'm really into like 2 different things, which are, democracy is really a cute idea, but I always think that ideas have power over no ideas, and then
ideas are the currency. Great ideas.
I think about that, but then at the same time, I think we always know what we know, but then the magic's what we don't know. So it's that almost contradicts it, you know. And it's like, well, let's make some magic. It's like there's this Belgian woman from she lives in Australia, and I want to do this record with her and Asia Argento, and I want Asia to play the part of the Serge Gainsborough, and I want this other French speaker to be this chanteuse, you know, this like real, you know, like everybody else that he would work with, this softer French, and play I'm gonna buy a baby grand and put it in here and just go back, you know. And Moogie's her name, and Moogie's like, well, I want to send you some tapes of my songs, and I'm like, fuck that, I'm not gonna listen to your shit. We're gonna make such stuff up, and it's gonna be great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you in the driver's seat, and you're gonna feel empowered. I go, if you want. You know, if you want to find somebody to record your music, let's find somebody capable. Let's look in the phone book and say, this person's great at recording, is sitting there and helping you realize your ideas. What I'm great at is figuring out what we didn't know. You know?
It's interesting because that's completely the opposite way of how, that's a different way than how Albini would work, isn't it? Where he'd work with anybody and just record them as they are, and he's great at it. But yours is a much more hands-on approach. It's a collaborative approach.
Well, sometimes it isn't, because it's really weird. There's a situation that I found myself in quite early, which is, you know, I don't practice like Paul Simons from Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Consequently, I'm not a virtuoso at anything. But I'm also like one of those Mozart guys. Like, I hear something, see something, feel something, and it's like a symphony, and it's like a mad dash to try and capture. It's ethereal, you know. It's like opening up a party popper or something. It's like
completely, yeah.
On a game show where they shoot the quids, you're in the plexiglass box and they fire them all up in the air, and you're just with the fan and you're trying to grab as many pieces and putting them in your tucking them in your shirt before they blow the whistle. And it's exactly like that, and that's really limiting for people that are trying to learn from the process in that way. But it also is really inspiring too. Like, I've been working with Tess on the BGM stuff, and you know, I keep telling her she's so great. You know, she'll whip out like 500 words. I go, let's. I'm making a song right now with you. She'll whip out like 500 words, and I'm like, we're only gonna need 15 of those, I swear to God. And I'm like, and we're tearing out all the ifs, ands, and buts. Go immediately first. You don't even need any of these words. It's just like, just distill this into this little bit, and then let the music sing a song, and then throw up some more, and just like quit trying to cram all this stuff into it. Like you're some French person puking up chunks of ideas, you know, like some French rap band or something. Blah, 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 blah. You know, it's just like get just so simple. And that can walk on, if it's the wrong fit, it can walk on somebody if they're there to figure out what they can do in the situation about their possibilities. They're going to have to broaden their perspective and go, well, you know, this is going to take a lot of sessions with a lot of different people before I get all the life experience that I need, because it may not happen in our sessions.
So how you're aiming, you can hear the music in your head,
yeah.
But how close do you ever get to replicating that outside your head?
Okay.
I mean, maybe do it every time, or maybe it's just frustrating.
Here's the beautiful part: is I'm into conceptual art. See, it's just a concept, so it doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't matter how well I nail it. All it is about the suspension of disbelief for me. So when I play it, if I can get lost into it, then it's a beautiful thing, right? But I don't want it to be so good that I'm fucking obsessing on it and that I can't get away from it.
Okay.
That's why I don't work with Nigel Goodrich. That's why I'm not the Stone Roses, because they have a fucking albatross around their neck, and everybody's going to always think of that fucking record that John Leckie and all those guys did, and all that tweaking that they did on his voice and every single thing, and it's fucking going to be endless fucking just like, well, that's not as good as that, or whatever, or they did good, you know, and fuck that. You know, it's just like, get on with it. You know what I'm saying? People love the underdog. I love White Riot. I love fucking White Heat, White Light. You know, it's like, and I love the Velvet's polished shit. I love it both. You know, it's like, fuck yeah. And the cool thing is I always have that. Like, when I think about Tony Visconti, you know, I blew it. I was so drunk, and he doesn't drink. You know, he gave that stuff. Him and Bowie gave that stuff up a long time ago. And you know, he was in New York talking to me, and he's like, "I really want to work with you." And I was like, I just laughed at him. I'm like, "Well, what are you going to do? Make me sing in tune?" You know, and I forgot about all the things that he's done and how great he is. And I just like looked at him in his eyes, like, "What are you gonna fucking do? Make me sing in tune?" I just laughed at him. And I didn't think about the beautiful string arrangements, the drum sounds, like how he made Mark Bullitt, you know, Cosmic Dancer happen, all Bowie, you know, it's just like on and on and on. So I'm trying to re-nurture that. But, you know, I have all that stuff to go back to. I know that Nigel Goodrich and these guys, a lot of people, you know, you're not going to see Bell and Sebastian or any of these cats like go, "Oh, we like Anton," because a lot of people think I'm crude, because I'll tell people to fuck off and all that shit. You know what I mean? And why? So there's a whole host of people that think I'm bad for their business or that I'm uncouth. You know, I'm banned from American television, period, but not UK, not international. But in America, I'm danger because they try and get me on Fox TV, and I was invited to Conan and all that shit like 5 times, and they just cancel it every single time because I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna say exactly what I think.
Yeah, they don't like that now, do they? They have everything very controlled, don't they? But that's the great thing about music. There's a huge, sprawling international underground where you can survive pretty well without having to be controlled, isn't it?
Well, I just mean like in France, if they go, "What do you think, Anton?" and I go, you know, I think Donald Trump's an asshole. That's what I think. They're not gonna sweat it. See, in Germany, they're going to think it's funny that I would say that.
Yeah.
But in America, they're going to be like,
yeah.
"Oh my God, you're dangerous." Because you won't, you can't or you won't zip it just to be more successful or whatever it is. So I don't know. Because
he's allowed to talk in those terms. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see what the problem is because it has no relationship to my music. And I find it funny that they would... see, I was always really into this firecracker idea that my art should be an exotic fruit that cannot be commercialized, that it should be rough and scarier than shit, and that the songs should be beautiful as much as possible. I should be singing love songs that touch people deeply, and all of a sudden they're like, "Why is this band named a punk rock band and a name or something about some massacre?" And all of a sudden they're writing some love song with cellos. I don't understand this. What is going on? Because I thought it's good for everybody.
Do you think they simplified the codes now? Like, you know, Jimi Hendrix, when he appeared in the UK, 67, it was so nothing, completely like nothing like that before. Mm-hmm. And there was space for him there, wasn't there? But now, would the mainstream allow that? You know, would he have to go on a talent show?
No. First of all, there wasn't space for Jimmy. Chaz Chandler had a tremendous amount of pull. He was well loved, much more than Eric Burden was. Chaz could get any door open. He was known as a lovely guy who knew his shit. See? Yeah. And he called in all of his favors. He got Jimmy to sit in with every group. He got him on the bill with everybody. It was Chaz handling him. Chaz went to Brian, and they were just starting. What I was told, Andrew might correct me later when he sees this, but I was told that they were just going to start Rolling Stones' record, and one of the last things that happened to Brian was he said, "I want to sign Jimmy," and they listened. They're like, "No fucking way are we putting out something that's better than the Stones on our label?" And he said, "You're not going to let me spend my money."
Right.
He said, "You're not going to let me spend my money," and that's when he started piling money into the farm. So he started draining their account like crazy on repair work. And Keith's like, "Oh, you should use my guys too." So that's what set the whole ball rolling, is what I was told. By insiders. But anyways, neither here nor there. Oh, one more Brian Jones thing. Did you know that he wore out like 3 copies of Creedence Clearwater Revolver, and he was calling them incessantly on the phone going, "You got to let me be the other guitar player in your band. Will be the greatest thing ever." He wanted to join that group, and they were like, "You're fucking weird, dude." So funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, what's this? But what you know, where in the 70s? I'm always interested in that kind of Same with Hendrix, isn't it? Just trying to match the great Hendrix comeback record with Public Enemy in 1990 or something. But Brian, I can never imagine it. You just see so much charm in his times, really.
I don't know. You know, Hendrix is a tough call because I don't know that he would have ever went away. But
I think
he was so good. It's just really hard to say. You know, like some people aren't of this world. I don't feel that I am, but for some reason here I am. But he really isn't. You know, it's so interesting how thoughtful he was, like when you're listening to him talk, when he's not being totally aloof, right? But his own thoughts on his like singing and stuff, like, you know, like he never liked it. He didn't think it was strong, and it's so pretty in a way.
Yeah.
It never crosses, and where Mick is so good at, he imitated so many people. He's so good, you know, like
he's an actor, great actor.
But there's no question that guy's a good front man, you know.
Oh yeah, he still is actually.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no question about that. But you know, for Jimmy to question himself and not be able to see that, like, oh, this is just a different thing, man. It's all good.
Yeah, I love his voice. I think he's a great singer.
I think that certain people and certain artists reflect a full spectrum of human emotion. That's what I go for myself. Not that I'm on any level. Don't get me started with Jimmy, with my heroes. I just don't even think in those terms. But I can't express how much I love that music since I was a little kid.
It's a freedom. You know, when the records don't have any sense of conventional timing, it just splurges and it comes out. That's what I love about his early records.
Well, but the thing is, what I'm getting at is a full spectrum of human emotion, where you can connect with it on different levels at different times, where it relates to the different songs. See?
Yeah.
Like it's not a one-trick pony. Like let's not make fun of somebody, but you know. Well, I guess we could name a bunch of people. Let's just pick on somebody, right?
Who are you going to pick on?
Noel Gallagher's high-flying cuss words. You know, in a certain extent, maybe not. To a certain extent, a large part of that music is a one-trick pony, a very good one-trick pony. And
he'd admit that himself, I think.
Okay, so it has a certain dynamic range, mentally and spiritually, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in a way, I think it was good for him to separate for a certain extent with his brother, but his brother added more dynamic range. At least they had that. They had the double. They had the sassy and the contemplative. But now he's channeled that down to just, here I am, I can do all this stuff, and I'm having a good time, and here I am. This is no bullshit. This is me.
I think Liam was unfettered when Liam was not a controlled person. That's probably what gave the dynamic.
Yeah.
When you see Liam's interviews, he doesn't think before he speaks. And that can be good sometimes, you know.
I'm the same way.
Whereas Noel's the opposite. He knows fantastic interview, but he's thought about it and he's cleverly done. But the way Liam acts and sings, he puts his foot in it a lot. But that's kind of cool, really. He makes mistakes in public. And when you balance the two out, it makes it far more interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to be not perfect.
Of course, that's what makes you like him.
Well,
yeah.
It also makes him a proper definition of an artist, because you're like, dude, you're not perfect because look what you just said. But then I think that all great artists should be cartoon characters too. So then they're just a great cartoon characters.
Yeah.
So it keeps going back and forth, and I'm not picking on Noel. So what I'm saying is, like, but some people are just like really mystical, and they just press all these buttons, you know, like, and you're never going to get to the bottom of it, because it's like 365 days of the year there's something that's in there, you know. And other groups and stuff, you know, are just the go-to experience for a certain kind of mood, you know. It's like what do they call it? Your Friday night record or whatever it is, you know, your Sunday morning record. It's just like that's the thing that hits that button. but it doesn't hit the other thing. Do you know what I mean?
That thing where you can listen to a record 1,000 times and
Yeah.
you just don't get anywhere near how it got made or what it's about or anything. It's just, it has that mystical nature to it.
Like
They're a great record.
like GBH.
Well, yeah, but they're a Friday night record, aren't they?
All this stuff. Yeah. I remember all that
Yeah,
stuff.
they're just a good shit-kicking rock and roll bands. That's what they're there for, isn't it?
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what always amazed me is like one of the last times we were in Australia, AC/DC was Akadaka was also on tour, and they were using 90 lorries
Wow.
to move their shit,
So,
and they're
it's a lot of lorries.
they're essentially a pub
It's a lot-
band. They are a pub band. All that stuff in the back of the Transit, and they could put on the same show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Of
just,
course, yeah.
but they need
It's
90.
like they don't even know what they do really well, which is actually they have the perfect groove, don't they? That's what's really good about them.
That swing or whatever that thing.
It's like the Stones swing, isn't it? It's kind of a decade later version groove, isn't it? That kind of sloppy groove, perfect, isn't it?
It's a point of reference when I'm talking to people about a certain drum thing, whether it's the Black Rebel Motorcycle Club or Dandy Warhols. That's the only beat they're playing is that AC/DC beat. It's just going back and forth. All those Black Rebel Motorcycle Club songs are just. It's exactly, they just lifted that exactly.
The heartbeat.
Yeah, and to tell you the truth, when a drummer is all EQ'd up, you know, with the right kind of free-flowing breathing, PA-driven drum set, when it's not too like boxed up and tuned up like a modern drum set, when it's a little bit crap, on a little bit crap, that beat is so monster, you know. But if your stuff's too perfect, you know, then it's not quite as cool. Like if you got a Metallica drum kit, it's not quite as cool as when it's a little bit
machine,
just fucked up, just really nasty.
It's not the heartbeat.
Yeah, I like what you said about the heartbeat.
The heartbeat.
Yeah, I like that. Amazing.
Changes speed all the time, and it's one of the things I really like about your records. It has this kind of groove to, where it's a fluid groove, like Hendrix had as well.
Well, that's what it all comes from. Now, let's go back on some history. All the drummers that we love from the 60s, right? Those guys' heroes were all the 40s big band guys, because that's what they heard. So those guys took the best elements of the early jazz that they heard. So they went from a more free-flowing, good-timey, like we talked about with Sgt. Pepper, and then they watched those superstars, whether it was Buddy Rich, whatever, right? There's all those guys that you look on YouTube, the 40s guys.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra, whoever his drummer, it's every single one of them. So those guys were all influenced by that, and then also by when the jazz stuff, Dave Brubeck and everybody else came out, you know, like Bird and everybody else, then and Monk, and you know, and they started really seeing some good drummers. Those guys were all influenced by that stuff. So that swing really became a crazy, crazy thing, more than a stomp, which is a blues thing. So those guys were all emulating that, you know, like Charlie Watts, a jazz drummer. All these guys, you know. So Ginger Baker.
The playing all the time. Yeah.
But every single
the most underrated.
Yeah, Mitch
The most
Mitchell.
underrated drum is Ringo, isn't it?
Well, he's more of a natural, I would say, because he was more of a natural that went beyond the skiffle thing. He's more of a natural sloppy guy. But I love it. See?
Yeah.
He does exactly, between those guys' brain power, he does exactly what's required of the song, in my estimation. He's not on every track, mind you, but he does exactly what I never think about the drums and the Beatles in a negative light, where my own drummer, I can barely get through a song, and he's fantastic, because drums ultimately should also be an instrument where you're thinking about the kick drum pattern, and you can play these little games with people's heads while you're doing other stuff. So as important as your little drum rolls It's just these like really weird. I call them like these little buzzing honeybee patterns where you're like going.
Oh, yeah,
You know, like even the specials or anything, there's like this weird pulsing, buzzing thing in your head. You know, this very rhythmic, and it's like surf music where it gets thrown off. You know, and you're scrambling a little bit on itself, and you just do that on the kick drum too. So it's like some weird, not African tribal. It's like Disney movie tribal. You know, it's like some weird island thing. I don't know what to call it. You know what I mean? It's some mystical stuff. But I really always want to hear that. You know.
So when you listen to music, you listen to it in shapes and colours?
Yeah, synesthesia a little bit, but you know, I know exactly